What's up, everyone? Welcome to the very first NBA and NHL combo crunch time of the season. I am your host, TJ Zwarich, joined by my good buddy on the NHL projections team. He's a wizard in NBA, a wizard in NHL, and we're going to break down both of these sports for you tonight. Tasteful Tides, Tim Buell, how you doing?
I'm doing well, TJ. This is an exciting time for the NHL team. Doing a little crunch time with you. It's a great 9-game slate, and I'm excited to break it down with you. And then we'll talk some NBA.
That's the plan. So how we're going to go about this is we're going to talk through the 9-game NHL slate first. It locks in 29 minutes, so we're going to want to make sure we get through that. Follow as soon as we're done NHL, as soon as that locks, we're going to go through NBA. We'll do for NHL, we'll do Fanduel, then we'll do DraftKings. We'll talk some optimal plays, some stacks, some goalies. Take your QQs. Then we are going to transition to NBA, talk Fanduel, talk DraftKings, and then get into the QQs there as well. I guess we can start getting into it for NHL here, Tim. If those watching us on YouTube, hit the like button, smash the like button if you will. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and Tim, why don't you give us the very first slate breakdown for an NHL slate this year?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's a 9-game slate. We want to talk about some core plays. I'm going to pull up what Moneyball 16 put up for his core for FanDuel, and I want to talk about the Buffalo Sabres. They are in the best spot on the board by far. If you're playing cash games, I suggest that you have 4 of them on FanDuel. I would 100% start with Tage Thompson and Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner is a very, very underrated player, and he's finally starting to play bigger minutes. So definitely Tage Thompson and Jeff Skinner should definitely be in your core. So Buffalo is definitely the top team on the board. Casey Middlestad and Dylan Cousins, they're both centers on both sites, on both DK and FanDuel, and they are both on separate even strength lines, but they both play on the top power play. So they can certainly be in your cash game team as well. They're super, super cheap on both sites. Buffalo has the highest implied team total on the entire board. So this is like really the Atlanta Braves in core spot. So you're not goofing around in cash games. You're definitely playing 4 Sabres in cash. Tournaments, we can go in other directions definitely, because they are going to be pretty high owned, this Buffalo team, and it is a 9-game slate. So we have plenty of other options that we can get to. But the Sabres are the most important team to discuss, because they are quote unquote like they are definitely the chalk.
Well, let's start off going through these chalky plays on FanDuel here, and let's go through we don't have to go through a full cash game build, I don't think, but what I would like to do is talk about the players that you are kind of needing to have in your lineup for cash today. We got a few of Moneyball's cores here. We got Tage Thompson, Jeff Skinner, Anthony Beauvillier as a salary saver, Seth Jones on D. That gives us 2 Buffalo players right now. Who are the other 2 you're looking to make sure you have in cash? I'm assuming one of them will be Middlestad or Cousins, whichever one it is. Apologies. Or is it going to be both?
Actually, I'm going both. Because they're both on the top power play unit, so you do get correlation that way. They combine at 10.2K, which I think is way too cheap. You could make the argument to play Dahlin, but he is pretty expensive on FanDuel, and he's a lot easier to play on DK, which we'll get to in a second. But he's 7.4K on FanDuel, and that's really pricey. So I would save him for tournaments, not cash, and I would just go with those 2 cheap Buffalo centers as my 4 Buffalo core pieces.
I think that makes sense. And if you look at the little cash core we got here on the right side in our lineup building stuff now, it looks pretty good. It fills out your lineup. It fills out your lineup really nice. And there's only a few places that you got left to do here. Let's kind of pivot to the goalies by that you'd want to use? Who would be the goalie that you'd be probably most likely to use in cash games on FanDuel today? You going for somebody like Prosvetov? Are you going? He's nice he's projecting for the most ownership, has a nice projection, and 7,800. That's kind of a nice mid-range price.
That is who I have in my cash game team right now. I think Igor at 8.7 is a little too pricey, despite being our top projected goalie. If you have the extra 900, go for it. Ilya Sorokin at 7.9 is definitely in consideration. But currently, I have Ivan as my cash game goalie going up against the Flyers. So that's my cash game goalie right now. And this lineup, Buffalo's so cheap. This lineup allows you to pay up for guys like Nathan McKinnon or Nikita Kucherov or some other huge stud, Austin Matthews, something like that. If you need to get to that one big spend, which I would recommend that you have. So yeah, I think that's a really good core for FanDuel, and I think that's definitely very, very viable for cash games.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it gives you the Kucherov, McKinnon, Panarin, Matthews. Any one of these guys are all great options. Panarin probably a little bit more of a tournament play than a cash play, but all of these guys looking really, really strong. And then you just need one salary saver at the defense position to load it up with. Before we talk about tournament stacks on FanDuel, this show is sponsored by FanDuel. Crunch Time is presented by FanDuel. Bet $5 in any money line. Get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Before we transition to DraftKings here, talk to me about your top stacks on the slate. Obviously, for cash, we know it's going to be we're loading up on Buffalo, but Buffalo will be by far the highest owned team on the slate today. So who are some of your favorite tournament pivots? I know you mentioned you really like Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I do really like Tampa Bay. There's some uncertainty around that game. We currently have Steven Stamkos out of projections. He is doubtful. So that's something to keep an eye out for later on. I'm assuming that he does not play, but that does not mean that I don't still like this team. I love to get to Kucherov, even as a contrarian one-off if you didn't want to do a full stack. You could add Brandon Point with him. Miguel Sergachev, Victor Hedman, Nicholas Paul should all be on that power play one. So even without Stamkos, I think this team is going super low owned. So they're definitely a team that I love for large field GPPs. I think Chicago is pretty interesting. Their top line with Connor Bedard, they're getting some ownership, but I think their prices are low enough.
I want to cut you off quick, Tim. Sorry, I apologize, but this was a perfect time to plug the Discord, because the RotoGrinders Discord, it's free to join, but there's no sport that it's more important to do so with than NHL. The NHL Discord is the only reason I've made money in NHL so far this year, and I've made a lot. Blender has been absolutely crushing. You and Moneyball and the whole crew in there have just been so to updating lines as they happen. And if you're looking to do a Tampa Bay stack tonight, it's going to be crucial to stay looking at the NHL Discord in the RotoGrinders chat. You can join it for free. The link is scrolling right below there. Because this is a team without Steven Stamkos. We don't know for sure how their first line is going to look. We don't know for sure how their power play line is going to look. And it's going to be really important for us to be paying attention in that Discord so we know if, hey, Sergachev is on the power play line, or, I'm blanking on another guy's name off the top of my head without actually looking at a sheet in front of me. It's Bar Boulet was on the power play one line last time. Kucherov was out. So it's going to be important to keep an eye on that as well. Now, you were saying Chicago. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's all right. Yeah. totally good. Discord is awesome. So yeah, definitely a good plug there. Toronto 1 ranks as our best projected stack. Toronto Power Play 1. They're very expensive. They rank right near Colorado Power Play 1. They're more expensive than Buffalo 1, and they're going to be lower owned, and they're in a tremendous matchup also. So Toronto at home against Nashville. That I think that's fantastic play. Personally, I mean, this is not what projections say. Projections loves we love Toronto. Our projections personally, if I'm going to pay that much, I want to get to Kucherov tonight over Matthews. But our projections are awesome, and Toronto's not coming in with that much ownership. They make for a great pivot away from Colorado and Buffalo.
I like it. Let's transition to DraftKings here. We'll do the same kind of pivot. We don't have to go through all of your top stacks again once we get to DraftKings, but maybe just touch on if there are some big pricing disparities where it's like, I like this team a lot more on DraftKings than I do on Fanduel. Austin Matthews, where he's a little bit cheaper on this site, he makes Moneyball's core. We got Jeff Skinner in there as well. I'll pull open the salary savers. Probably want to get Dylan Cousins in a cash style build. Who else are you looking at here to plug into a cash lineup, or just optimally speaking, who do you think are the top plays?
Yeah, so the big difference to me with over DraftKings to FanDuel is that Rasmus Dahlin is 6,100 defenseman for Buffalo, much easier to play on DraftKings. So he would definitely, he's only 6,100. That is way too cheap in this matchup. So he's definitely going to be a core piece for me in all formats. Yeah, so that's like kind of like the biggest difference for me is that Dahlin is much easier to play. Jeff Skinner 100% has got to be in your cash game build, and then Cousins and Middlestad again. They're in that 4.1 and 4.4 price range. That's way too cheap for them. So yeah, personally, I have McKinnon ranked ahead of Matthews, but it's close. So I would get one of McKinnon or Matthews in your cash game builds on DK, and then you've got Kucherov as I think is a great large field tournament pivot.
I like it. When you're looking at these Buffalo players today, say you're playing a tournament lineup, you want to stack them, you're stacking Buffalo in single entry, you're going to get different somewhere else. Who's the one guy that you end up leaving off? Are you going with Cousins and hoping that it's a power play goal that gets scored? Or are you plugging Tage Thompson in there? How are you going about Buffalo if you're saying you're playing one team and you want to play them?
Yeah, so I'm doing a full Buffalo with Cousins, Middlestad, Dahlin, Skinner, and then I'm debating adding Thompson or not. But then I know no matter what I do, I got to get real different with the rest of my team. And so that's why I want to play Kucherov, because he's projecting at 6% ownership versus a guy like McKinnon, who's going to be 17, or Matthews, who's going to be like 13. So I'm adding in Kucherov to get away from some aggregate ownership and still getting to, the best pieces of Buffalo. So that's my strategy tonight. I mean, to answer your question, who am I going to leave off? I guess if I had to leave off one of these core Buffalo pieces, it would be Cousins, and just leave Middlestad, Skinner, and Thompson and Dahlin.
That makes sense. Anything else you want to touch on, or should we check if we got some QQs? If you got questions, you can get them in the YouTube chat. And then also the RotoGrinders Discord live stream chat for questions. And then Tim, if you want to, feel free to, if there's any breaking news in the NHL Discord, feel free to get that out as well. We'll talk about goalies still on DraftKings before we make the pivot to NBA.
Yeah, so scoring for goalie in DK and FanDuel are very different. On FanDuel, you really want to hunt for the win, whereas on DK, you're more focused on volume. You want shots against. So Sorokin, in my opinion, is the top goalie on the slate at 7,500. He should see a ton of volume against the Kings. I would not be shocked at all if he gets the 35 save bonus. So if you want to go the safer route, like if you're just playing cash games, I would go 8,100 for Shesterkin. But I think for tournaments, Sorokin makes a ton of sense. He is going to be the highest owned. So if you wanted to get somebody who's lower owned that I think might see some volume, I think Demko is pretty interesting. Alex Lyon, also under 8K. If you want to get really ambitious, I think Carter Hart at 6,900 going up against Colorado. Philadelphia isn't as bad as they have been in the last couple of years. So it wouldn't shock me if they stole this game from Colorado. And if they do, Carter Hart is going to be a big part of that. So I think he's got a big upside for 6,900.
So I am just learning right now. I've been successful at NHL DFS. There's just like so far, but I'm just learning right now. I totally thought the limit of how many players you could play from one team was 4. It's 5. That's why I was asking the leaving person out question, because I thought you could only play 4 players from a team. That makes things a lot easier on DraftKings. I thought I knew there was that you could have to play from 3 different teams, but I thought it was 4 teams, 4 players maximum. Turns out it's 5. That's very exciting. Anything else before we pivot to NBA?
No, I think we can go to NBA.
All right. And if you have any questions for DraftKings, FanDuel, NHL, NBA, get them all in the Discord live stream chat or in the YouTube chat. And let's just make sure we are smashing the like button as well as hitting the notification bell and subscribing to the YouTube page as well. Derek wants to know, he said at the beginning of the show, he said he was not going to play NHL. He's only going to play NBA. And now he's asking Tim, DKGPP, I got 4K left for 2 wings and a defense. Where am I looking?
4K left.
So we need cheap wings and defense.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can definitely look for a couple cheap wingers for you. Kubalik 2,700 on DK is definitely viable. I think who else? Oh, Taylor Radish. He's 2,800 on Chicago, and then a cheap defenseman, Riker Evans for the Kraken. He's 2,500, so he's the stone man. He's actually a really good play just in general.
And so that one was actually somebody that I had in my lineup. He's supposed to be on the power play too for the Kraken, but I did see somebody mention in the RotoGrinders Discord for NHL. I'll pull that up right now. One of the reasons why this channel is so darn valuable. Let's see here. Got to scroll up a little bit more. Moneyball says, looks like Justin Schultz is going to come in for Brian Dumoulin tonight. So not sure Riker Evans will have power play time anymore. And so that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on as well, because if Justin Schultz is getting that power play time instead of Evans, I'm not sure how interesting he's still going to be. Obviously, I kind of feel like Roth in NBA for this a little bit. Like, I know the players, I kind of know what I'm talking about, but when somebody gets ruled out and they're shifting lines, I don't know how that's going to impact their projection.
Oh, that would really hurt his projection if he lost his PP 2 times. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. That would really hurt his projection. Definitely a lot of interesting news in that last game for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna have
with a Seattle game.
Exactly, because we're gonna have to wait and see for power play lines there, but we're also gonna have to wait and see for what Tampa Bay does with the rest of their lineup. So
just so you know, you don't actually get power play lines.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like we're not actually gonna know who's on the power play, but we will know who's playing. So, but yeah.
We'll definitely have to keep an eye on the lines that come out for Tampa and then see if any speculatory stuff comes out for the power play. But obviously, yes, you're absolutely right. Nothing can be confirmed there. Swapping over to the NBA, we got the in-season tournament finale 4-point spread. The Lakers are favored against the Pacers. Before we get into the specifics, like how do you think this game is going to go?
So I'm predicting that this game goes over the total, and I'm predicting that the Pacers win outright. That is what I'm going with this evening.
I agree with the game going over the total, but I think the Lakers are going to come away. I think LeBron just wants this too damn badly. One more feather to put in his cap, and so I think the Lakers are going to be coming away with this one. FanDuel and DraftKings, very different strategies with the two of these, because for DraftKings, we obviously have the captain position, and it impacts the salary. The cheaper you go there, the more salary you have for the rest of your positions, because just like the scoring system, the salary multiplies as well. On FanDuel, we got the MVP, the star, and the pro. The only difference is everybody is the same price everywhere regardless. You can put, no matter where you put people in your lineup, it doesn't affect the salaries don't change. The salaries don't multiply in addition. It's just the points. And so you essentially always want to put the player you think will be highest scoring in the MVP, the player you think second highest scoring will be in the star, and then the third highest scoring in the pro. Now, it's not as easy as just always looking at the projection and plugging them in there, because as you can see, well, look who's Anthony Davis is projected to score the most points in this game, and he's the highest projected owned MVP. LeBron's actually coming in second, which to me makes, for FanDuel, Tyrese Halliburton by far the best MVP to use here, since he's coming in 10% lower owned than LeBron and Anthony Davis in that position. But just kind of straight up, Tim, ownership aside, who of these players do you think, their projections are all within 3.5 points of each other, who do you think will be the highest raw point scorer tonight?
I think it's going to be Halliburton, and I think it's going to be like by a few points. So I'm very, very high on Halliburton today. I'm very high on the Pacers in general. So I think Halliburton is definitely my top spend.
Yeah, he is exactly the same for me. Ownership included, he's by far my favorite. Ownership excluded, he's still my favorite. The biggest thing to kind of keep in mind on this slate is the sites did a good job of making it so you can't just go, haha, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Tyrese Halliburton. You plug all three of these guys in. So, I'll put in, just for the sake of what we've been talking about, I'll put Halliburton in at the MVP position. You can't just go Hallie MVP, Davis star, LeBron pro. That leaves you 6,250. So I guess you can. It's doable, but it leaves you with nothing left to play. You got Jackson Hayes at 6K. You got Jared Vanderbilt and Max Christie and Christian Wood at 6,500. So you're looking at, the only thing you could do there is play Hayes and then one of Christie or Vanderbilt. Your only option if you want to go that route. It's a little bit scary. And so would you, if you're playing optimally, would you go the double punt, Jackson Hayes, Jared Vanderbilt with the three studs? Or if you want to go a little bit more balanced, which is probably more feasible, which of these three studs are you leaving out of your lineup?
That's such a tough question. I would have to say, it sounds stupid, but I'd have to say LeBron. I think
it does feel scary too.
I think it's a better spot on paper for AD, even though this could be like LeBron's moment. So I don't know. I still lean AD, and I would take LeBron out. That's what I would do.
Mathematically, the better choice is LeBron James. It's just a matter of, mathematically, the better choice is Anthony Davis, is what I meant to say. But narratively, it's LeBron James. And so Derek's saying I did 3 lineups, 2 studs each, and rotated captains. That's kind of the way I would want to go about this, is taking a very specific approach on FanDuel and going, all right, when I have Tyrese Halliburton and Anthony Davis here, I think the person I would want my pro to be would be I'm probably looking at either Miles Turner or D'Angelo Russell, and maybe even trying to get Oops, sorry. No, you can't get both. But I'm probably looking at Miles Turner or D'Angelo Russell or even Austin Reeves. I would probably want to make sure, though, I'd have Russell or Reeves in a lineup that doesn't have LeBron. Because if he's not getting a bunch of points and Anthony Davis is one of their ball handlers, is probably picking up the slack. So Reeves or Russell are probably going to be the ones in that situation. I also like the idea of pairing Anthony Davis with I take it back. That's the way I'd go there. If I'm going LeBron here, the one I'd probably want to pair them with would be Miles Turner, because if AD's not having a great game, that probably means Miles is in there playing really big minutes and he's playing great defensively. He didn't get in foul trouble, because if Miles Turner is not in this game, AD is absolutely smashing. There's nobody else on the court that can come remotely close to guarding him. So I would probably if I'm playing LeBron James from a correlation standpoint, I'd want to go with Turner. And then if I'm playing Anthony Davis, I think I would want to go with Reeves or Russell in that spot. Finally, salary savers to make things work. Obviously, we talked about these guys all the way at the bottom that you could go to if you needed it, if you wanted to play all three of the studs, but they're uncomfortable. A little higher up, we have better options. Between 7K and 8,500, you get Mathurin, Neesmith, Taurean Prince, TJ McConnell, Cam Reddish, Rui Hachimura, Isaiah Jackson, all perfectly viable today for single entry. Who do you like best of the salary savers on FanDuel?
Probably Rui. That's probably my favorite. Coming in at 8% owned. I like that ownership too. So yeah, it's probably Rui and/or TJ McConnell would probably be my favorite. But I just like that Rui's going to be playing 21 minutes. So I like his minutes for 7K.
I think for me, it's going to, I agree. I like Rui as well, but TJ McConnell is going to be my favorite. On DraftKings, he's my favorite. On FanDuel, it actually might be Isaiah Jackson, though, just because he's 7K flat. A little bit cheaper, like Rui, a little bit cheaper than those other guys, and it's a big deal. Those extra $500 on this slate, and he's a big steal block guy. And on FanDuel, that really supports his scoring system well. On DraftKings, where I'm not as worried about the turnovers, and although McConnell's a pretty good steal block guy too, but I think I like McConnell a bit better on DraftKings, and then on FanDuel, I'm going with I like going with Isaiah Jackson there. On DraftKings, this is a different story because there's a salary multiplier. It could potentially be beneficial to play a cheap captain up here so you can afford more studs. Right now, we have Anthony Davis as the highest owned captain to almost 28%. LeBron James, number 2, Tyrese Halliburton, 3. So first off, optimally speaking, who would be your favorite captain to use here?
It's either AD or Halliburton. I just love Halliburton, but he's so expensive. So probably optimally it's AD. But if it's my money, I'm playing Halliburton.
Yeah, same here. I'm going Halliburton in there, but I totally understand that as well. I have a question for you here quickly before NHL lock, before we continue here. Should I go a 4-3-1 stack with that would have 4 Buffalo players, 3 Detroit players, and 1 blue? Or should I go do a 5-2-1 stack with 5 Buffalo players, 2 Detroit players, and then I'd need a $3,600 utility? So Anthony Beauvillier, and Cousins, or Cody Parayko. And oh my gosh, this isn't even close. I got to go with the Beauvillier and Cousins one. I like that one so much better.
It's the first one.
Yeah. I was scrambling in my last minute here trying to make a lineup work because I found out that you could play 5 players. So I want to play 5 Buffalo players on that team instead of about 4, and we got it in. Let's go. Make sure your NHL lineups are in, and then we're still going to be looking at that Discord for Seattle and Tampa Bay news later. Let's stay at the captain position, talk about some tournament pivots. If you're not playing one of the big 3, who are you most likely to go to here, and how many lineups do you think you'd have to be playing before you went outside of the big 3?
I actually have quite a bit of interest in Miles Turner at captain. And I also think that I think D'Angelo Russell, I have some interesting captain also, just because he does flash a ceiling from time to time, and this is going to be a really, really high pace up spot. So I guess Turner would be my first outside of the big three, then Russell. So yeah, I think those would be my two favorite. I want to hear your opinion on Isaiah Jackson. I've been looking at him all day. I don't want to play him at captain, and I don't really want to play him at util either. He's going to be so chalky. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's not good chalk, but I also know that we don't really have a lot of options. But like 54% in the low dollar, he'll be even higher in higher dollar. This just doesn't sound good to me.
Yeah, it's tough because it's such a weird situation where our cheap guys, they're not going to play big minutes. TJ McConnell and Isaiah Jackson, they're not going to play big minutes, but they're very, very good point per minute guys. And so the fade approach is like, yeah, they're each going to play 12 minutes and probably score 12 points. And if they do that, I'm probably good here. As long as LeBron, Halliburton, and Davis don't each put up 70 and make it so that I need all three of them in a lineup. The scary part about fading them is TJ McConnell and Isaiah Jackson both. If they get 2 or 3 more minutes than what their minutes projection has right now, you're probably going to need them. They're the guys that just like have huge ceilings if they just happen to extend their minutes just a touch. And so I'm with you. The Isaiah Jackson one, especially, it's scary, especially when you can just make a pivot, do a slightly different lineup and get Taurean Prince or Cam Reddish. But I think the best thing to do there for tournaments, if you really want to make a pivot, is Isaiah Jackson 55% ownership, Obi Toppin 2% ownership. Just play Toppin instead.
Yeah, I was looking at the optimal rates that Jamino makes, and I was very sad to see that Isaiah Jackson is going to be the optimal 51% of the time. So like I was like, no way I'm going to play Jackson until I saw that breakdown. So like I don't know, he's going to be in the optimal over 51% of the time, but still, like, it just terrifies me. I just want to go up to guys that are a little bit more expensive, but it's close.
Yeah, I am with you there as well. McConnell's definitely going to be my favorite cheapie here. The biggest thing I'm doing different in tournaments today is I have some Isaiah Jackson and TJ McConnell captain lineups. If they happen to get a little extra run, Jackson's getting 6-7% there, but McConnell's only projected for 2. If he's playing great, there's a chance without Nembhard there that McConnell could end up closing or getting it like something like 20 minutes. And if that's the case and all the studs have a big game, the only way to make these lineups work will be to have a cheap guy there. And so I'm playing some McConnell and Isaiah Jackson captain lineups and then mixing and matching the various players I get there with them. Let's get to some QQs here. What do we got? Sorry, I missed one hockey question. Hopefully, assuming he didn't pick somebody at this 7 o'clock Eastern game, do you have a 8K goalie for somebody on Fanduel?
I already answered it.
Oh, you already answered it. Perfect.
Yeah.
TJ, favorite low-owned captain for DK GPPs? I guess it's probably TJ McConnell for me. And then loading up on the studs there. I see you answered it, Ivan Prosvetov. Perfect. Bruce Brown or Benedict Mathurin as a DK GPP captain?
They said Mathurin, right?
Yeah, Brown or Mathurin?
Yeah, Mathurin.
Me too, just because he's cheaper. There's more that you could do with it. Shout out to 2Up Investing. First time watching the show, had to give a like. Everyone should do the same. Couldn't agree more. Everybody smash that like button for us. It does so much to help not only to keep these shows free for everybody, but it helps us wonderfully if you hit the like button to battle the YouTube algorithm. Brian Marshall wants to know, TJ, what's your Mathurin utility exposure on DraftKings for DK GPPs? So I am playing, how many lineups am I playing today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total lineups for DraftKings GPPs today. And I have Mathurin in 1, 2 of 8. So I have 25% Mathurin today in DK GPPs in a utility position. Let's see. I think that is it for QQs. We covered YouTube. We're good in the live stream chat on Discord. Check the NHL Discord last second, see if there's any big late news here. Nope. Looks like we're good. Tim, do you got anything else for the people before we get out of here?
No, that was great, TJ. A lot of fun. Let's do some hockey again sometime.
Anytime it's a possibility to do, I am game to hop on here with you. If we can ever get somebody like Moneyball on here with you, that'd be pretty awesome. But if not, I don't mind whatsoever handling the host duties and know a little bit about hockey, know a lot about DFS, so we can handle it a little bit. But going to you for the meat and potatoes. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in to our very first NHL Crunch Time of the year. And make sure you're coming tomorrow because we got lots of NFL content coming for you. Tim will be starting the day bright and early for the Grinders Live at 10:30 Eastern or 9:30 Eastern?
Not 9:30.
9:30 Eastern. That means I got to get up with you early because I'm producing it. So you got Tim, Dean, and Bobby for that one, followed by Squirrel and Eric for the GPP Final Take show. And then I will be hosting Crunch Time alongside Keith and Andre. So make sure you tune in for that as well because we got a full day of football content coming. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. We will see you tomorrow on behalf of myself and Tim and the whole RotoGrinders team. You have been crunched.